So you hear the music and you know that something good is coming. And
Yep.
as I do most days, I'm bringing you fresh, relevant people who are good in their own rights. And today is no different. I am thrilled to welcome my friend, Jack Chadam. Jack, it's your chance to tell me something good, brother.
I'm psyched to be here. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
So my pleasure. I mean, so you and I don't know each other very long, but in the time that we do, it's been fairly engaging. Every time I'm with you, I learn something, which is, I think is a, something that is, that's the legacy I like to lead. So for my audience, why don't you tell them who you are? Maybe give them a little history of how you went from advertising to being this great biz dev guy, which that I relate to, how we met, and then take it away. Anything you want to share, it's good.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me, and I'm thrilled to be here. First and foremost, I apologize in advance. I'm going to keep my hand on the mute button in the event that the two hounds decide to attack and kill the
No, let it be.
on the other side of that door. 100-pound plus hound dogs giving full baying experience. That'll certainly be something good and something quite amusing.
Something good, man. The best part about Zoom and StreamYard is that anything goes now, man. It's all good.
Well, thanks, and thanks for understanding. So, I actually want to touch on one thing. I think that, you and I actually met not just recently, but many, many moons ago. You were talking about the advertising world and the like, and from 2006 to just into 2011, I was with BFW Advertising, and I think that's actually where we first crossed paths. It may have been a Miami Dolphins, related type thing or something else, but I vividly remember sort of you being in the center of influence, the sphere, or whatever the touch points that I was making all the way back then. Fast forward, we lost, sort of touch. I was at Grant Thornton for a while, and then you and I kind of just, reconnected here, I think, over the last 5 years. And it's been really rich, and I've really enjoyed your company and your motivational spirit and insights as well. So I thank you for your kind words to me. But
it's true.
Right back at you, my friend.
It's totally true. So, what was cool for me was that I meet all kinds of people, and I try to believe that people have you always have something to offer. You have this unique sense of humor that actually pushed me to think, which is, I think, the effect you have on people. So I'd like to sort of dig into that a little bit more. Like, Who is Jack Chadam?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. So let me touch on the other question too. What brought me out of advertising into this? And I think my sense of humor is kind of, if you will, kind of the baseline for a lot of things. As my wife recently, a couple of years ago when we were in Ireland on vacation, sort of said, being here in Ireland, now I understand you a little bit more. You can't help yourself. This is in your genes. You're just naturally happy, vivacious, gregarious. You just won't shut up, parenthetically, is I think what she was saying, but you like to have a good time. And that's kind of it. So I was at BFW Advertising and I was having a great time. Absolutely loved it. Unbelievable businessmen. The two of them that run that agency are just really astute businessmen, but also just incredibly great creatives and the people that kind of got around them. I think that was part of the inspiration for doing really good work for a select few clients. And it kind of started to really resonate with me about what I wanted to do and what my past experience had been in professional services. Almost all B2B professional services, a little bit of B2C here and there, but it's always been professional services and kind of two sides of the same coin. Marketing, chief marketing officer, sales, head of BD, something along those lines. Both doing the same thing. At the end of the day, it's about moving the needle and it's about engaging people and it's about sort of brand connections. So I really credit them for kind of helping me understand and realize what the next phase of my life was going to be. I knew I did want to get back into professional services, and I took a great opportunity and was with Grant Thornton straight away from the advertising agency to be the de facto chief marketing officer, if you even want to kind of call it that, for the state of Florida for Grant Thornton from 2011 to 13. And I think that's where you and I actually started reconnecting. We were in that same sort of circle, the Miami Finance Forums of the World, Association for Corporate Growth, other types of things. And that's kind of what brought us back together again. The long rambling story is just that as time went on, we'd had the economic crisis. I was just connecting with people and I was just realizing that in this day and age, it really is about who you are and the company that you keep. we can talk about going and submitting resumes on LinkedIn. We can go to Indeed.com or whatever for people that are looking for a job, but it really does boil down to personal connections and how we end up meeting people through personal connections and sort of the trust factor that we build. For my part, I can't help myself. I'm always positive. I always think that there's something good coming. It's kind of funny. Through a couple of different things, I'm in the accounting world, right? And if you think about the accounting world, it really is really focused on what's already happened. We account for everything that's kind of already happened. Yeah, maybe we can sort of adjust for some things right today. But for me, working with business owners, C-suite executives, even their centers of influence, be it their other professional service advisors, bankers, lawyers, financial advisors, personal financial advisors, insurance people and the like, it's about what's coming, and what's over the horizon. The really good stuff is the 3, 5, 10 years out, at least for me personally, and working with those people, and charting a path to get there. And that's part of the journey, right? I'm not a CPA. Everybody I think the entire world knows it. And I think, a lot of people thank their lucky stars that I'm not a CPA. I let the good people that really know the stuff and the subject matter expertise do their work. And I just try to provide some ideas. So I've become sort of the happy, positive idea man.
Which I really like. I mean, the role that you've defined for yourself is you're introducing those services to people. Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily have to do that. I prefer that, actually, in that world, is to have somebody who is a craftsman at the actual work. They're not necessarily the person that's spending time developing relationships and doing all the things that it takes to do that. And, you and I validate that with each other, that every introduction is a good one. There are social tools that allow you to do it even bigger and at scale. And that's what we teach people. But fundamentally, if you don't like somebody, the chances of you doing business with them are nil. They're done from the get-go. And so if you said, is there an accountant in the room? There's a lot of people that are going to raise their hand. The one that you pick is the one that you develop chemistry with, that you have like-minded stuff. And so you're the one doing all of that work ahead of time. And from the work I know that you've done, you guide people through that journey. Yep. And I mean, that's really the world that I live in. It's like, listen, I'm way okay if we don't do business. We could be friends. People are stunned by that. And they go, yeah, imagine that. As a BD guy, we could still be friends without you buying from me. And like this, 100%. There are some business development people that are offended by that. Oh, if they're not buying from me, they're the enemy. I'm like, what? So
it's about paying attention. And I think that that's one of the things in our relationship. That's why I really like you. I really, just connected with you, because you're constantly curious about the other person and you're asking good, genuine questions. And frankly, that's what I try to do too, because it's not about sort of serving me, if you will. It's, if I meet Joe at ABC Widget Company and I'd love to do business with him, but he's got an absolutely fabulous relationship with his accountant, okay, there it is then. But if I have asked some intelligent questions and I realize that Joe's sales team is really not cutting it, and they really could get to the next level with some professional coaching, with some guidance, guess what? I've got the guy for you. And it's a one phone call. It's that. It's not, here's 3 or 4, go out, sample them, interview them yourselves. I don't work like that. I know that it's you. I know that Joe and you are going to get along, and I make that introduction and frankly, get out of the way and let the magic happen. And
so that leads me to another question. So I know that you're very, very philanthropic. You always have been. You give back of your time. You give back of your money. I write about it in the sales world. I give knowledge first, and then the universe gives me back. I wonder if you could touch on the things that you're involved in, the organizations of where you are giving back, because I know mentoring is really big to you, and I'd love for you to share, because I love this initiative.
Well, thanks so much for asking. So I will tell you something new. It is something good. And the new part is that 2 weeks ago today, I was invited onto the board of the Treasure Coast Manufacturers Association.
Nice.
So up in Martin, St. Lucie, Indian River County, that whole area there. For years, I had helped Matt Rocco and the team at South Florida Manufacturers Association, did some great work there, parlaying it into kind of another role and even more, kind of a bigger, deeper responsibility. As you said, I tend to do very few things, but really roll up my sleeves and get my hands dirty and just really do a lot of constructive stuff. So that's what I'm looking forward to working with there. So that is some good news awesome. As well. Traditionally, with business, I've done some networking. Of course, I go to lots of different events and the like, but I do like to commit myself to a very few, number of things. Socially, Team CBIZ is really committed to Boca Helping Hands and a handful of other places where we really donate a lot of time as well as additional money. Personally, I'll actually go in the way, way, way back machine. I moved to Florida, where Florida kind of came on my radar from Southern California when I was living out in Los Angeles, 1998 to 2005. And I was doing networking up and down the West Coast from San Diego all the way up into San Francisco and the like, paying attention to the .coms of the world, the technology, the biotech and everything. And I was sort of paying attention from afar to what Jeb Bush was doing out here with respect to planting Max Planck, Torrey Pines, Scripps, that sort of stuff, and what I thought might ultimately become of Space Coast as well. So on our own initiative, we packed up and we moved here. And I participated in that over the years. I got involved and got the opportunity to start mentoring some young people and young entrepreneurs, purely altruistically, not for compensation. In fact, I didn't invest in their companies either. I just was mentoring them to try and give them encouragement and to try and push them forward. And that parlayed into being invited to help be one of the, let's call me the co-founding members and mentors of FAU's Tech Runway program.
Which is a phenomenal,
phenomenal
program.
It's awesome. It's one that I'm really proud to have been associated with. I still consider myself associated with it as an alumnus. I love the work that they're doing and the companies that they're incubating and spinning out. We even sort of I didn't have direct mentorship responsibilities with him, but Jan Bednar's, a Shipmonk company came out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was, he was a recent graduate there at our facility doing all of the stuff all by himself. And Forbes and everybody has written about him in the papers. And he's doing great. But, we also got Joe Cardenas, who developed Aquaco Farms, a fish.
He was our client. We did work with him, and he's fat. And you know what? He just posted eating in a restaurant in Jupiter of the fish that he farmed. So that's real, which is insane.
Yeah. It is a fabulous group, and
he was a banker. He was a banker at Bank United that had a dream that raised some money. We helped him raise a little bit more. The next thing you know, he's raising fish. It's fabulous. I love those kind of initiatives where people are just realizing their potential.
So, on my LinkedIn page, I post a, watch this space, or a Jack's watch this space every once in a while. And both Shipmonk as well as Aquaco Farms were a Jack's watch this space kind of, story. And I love being able to continuously post the updates about them and the good work and the good news that they've got going on.
My friend Gino is the CEO of Jan's company.
Nice.
Gino
is is an awesome individual. I like that guy. He and I went all the way back at FAU Tech Runway together. We were there together as mentors.
So great. Yeah. I mean, I got introduced to Gino years and years ago, and have developed a great friendship. He was living in Milwaukee, working at a food distribution company that I wound up engaging his services there. Then he's moved back here. He's just a really bright guy.
And he's fun to be with.
He is really fun. We just had dinner with him and his wife, and we broke the COVID rules, and we went to a restaurant on the island and had such a fabulous night. I was like, how is it possible all these years we never got together with our wives? It's crazy.
You know what? You and he are two people. I'm certainly not in that category, but I don't think I've ever seen them not smile. I mean, even when they're, kind of like a little iffy and, in their mood, they still got a twinkle in the eye. And both of you two are like that. So that's awesome.
Thank you. No surprise, So the obvious question here is for a people person such as yourself, and you are at your best when you're in a crowd and you're, lighting up an event.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, March 13th, the world shuts down. You said before we got started, your business is really good.
Yeah.
Tell me about, the pivot that Jack Chadam made.
So let me give you just some brief context. My brother and I went to London, England on Friday, March the 6th for a brother's getaway week of mayhem in England, going to soccer matches. And for those of you who know me, I'm just a complete, soccer nut. I've gone to the World Cup since 1994 with my brother and some other friends, et cetera. And we went there and we just we raised heck. And as we were sitting there watching the BBC with their sort of stiff upper lip about this impending world doom of COVID, we're watching Wolfie Blitzer, scream about, the end of the world. We came back and I sequestered myself for 2 weeks, in just one room for 2 weeks to make sure that I didn't have COVID. And knock on wood, thankfully I didn't. To answer your question, it was essentially, let's call it March 13th until about the beginning of September. There was a lot of Jack just reaching out to people, not selling, but basically being there for them and answering a lot of questions and trying to use my network to introduce them to other people. At the outset of the, as I call it, 3P instead of PPP, 3P, there were some companies that did not have access to, their incumbent bank and a smooth, process. So I introduced them to some other resources that could actually get them applications, get their things done and get their applications in. Once that was done, it was then, okay, now we've got it. So how do we deploy the money? And then ultimately, how do we now start completing these applications? I give Team CBIZ credit for basically just giving a lot of services away for free during the pandemic and just being there to answer as many questions as, as our clients could throw at us, including even, say, the property and casualty insurance guys or the employee benefits guys for whom we didn't, their ABC client, we didn't do accounting, but their accountant was a smaller firm that may not have had access to the national resources that we have, including our national tax office based in Washington, DC, et cetera, et cetera. So we were really on the front end of the thing, and just provided a lot of, positive news and basic guidance. So that goes all the way fast forward to where we're at today. Starting at about September 1st, man, the floodgates opened back up. Lots of phone calls, lots of emails, lots of new opportunities. I think in part from I keep using the word ABC widgets of the world, who felt like they had not, they sort of had an aha or an uh-oh moment where they realized, we're doing 50 million a year in annual revenues, and we may not have been serviced as well as we had thought we could have, or we should have, or what have you. So those are opportunities that we're proposing on and telling them who we are. And if our story and who we are is a great fit for them, fabulous. We'd love to do business for them. If not, it gives them perspective on, their existing relationship and how to maybe ask for more going forward. So I would say that, from September 1st until now, it's just been drinking from the fire hose in terms of new business opportunities. I would say that only one of those opportunities was one that I developed cold, outside of just kind of doing the right thing for people. It was, let's call it a true sales, pitch or sales opportunity. Only one of all of them has come around since that time in March when we kind of all went home and, sort of wondered what was going to happen. It's been all the last 5 to 3 years to last year's relationship developments and just doing the right thing and staying in touch with people and introducing them to a new banker or a new sales executive or somebody else in their world as I maintain that relationship over all of those years. And now it's come to the opportunity to actually propose on their work. So I feel good about what we've done.
I'm so glad that you went there, because what happens at time of crisis is you rely on the network you built.
Yeah.
And if you have not been building a network, that's when you fall flat on your face. That's the rude awakening. It's like, wow, I've been doing transactions all these years. I don't have real relationships. Mm-hmm. When you reach out to people and say, hey, what can I do to help you, man? This is I love this term. People were saying to me, in these uncertain times, and I would call them up and go, hey, listen, man, they've never been certain for me, man. I know I gotta work every day to make something happen. And so, clearly was unique opportunity for me with my son joining the company. I basically, he asked me like, Dad, what are we gonna do? And I go, we're just gonna connect at scale. Yeah. We're just gonna talk and be there and go, and access to people was elevated to a point it had never been before. People were home. They were desperate for conversations. Right. And I think that's been, lingering as the big takeaways on the positive side, is that I think people are working from home. They have a positive life work balance. They understand that, especially in the services, accounting, and in lawyers. We have a few legal clients who have decided they get up, they have a cup of coffee, and they go to work. They don't go to travel. Yeah. Spending an hour in the car and parking and then lunch. It's all right there. So there's so many takeaways. I would like for you in our last minute together to give me your outlook. You're a always an optimistic guy. We get that. What's the outlook? What happens through the holidays and into 2021?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the elephant in the room, and that is, look, there's 21 million Americans that are receiving some kind of assistance right now. That is up from about 1.2 million pre-COVID. And that's just a stunning number. So we've got a lot of our fellow citizens, our brothers or sisters or mothers or fathers or children, et cetera, that are really struggling. And I acknowledge all of that. And I think that we are going to be there as a nation for them. I would say that I'm trying not to be too optimistic about it, but man, there's a lot of really good news out there. There are a lot of clients of ours that are doing banner. They are doing better than they've ever done before. Granted, some of them are in businesses that, that are really taking it on the chin and they're sort of playing a little bit of defense, but there's a lot of really, really good positive stuff out there. And I'm talking not just about, increased sales. I'm talking about alliances, strategic alliances, tactical alliances. And there's just boatloads of dry powder out there at the private equity level, at the family office level, all different places. I've been watching a lot of the ACG, South Florida, presentations, and their guests just keep reiterating the same thing. For good deals, for good business, the multiples are off the chart because they're all chasing the same good ones. They're now starting to look at some things that maybe, have a little bit of, twist to them. But, they're also saying that new competitors are coming into the marketplace and they're bidding jobs up or bidding engagements up by 50, 70, 100%. So there's a lot of money to be put to work out there. And I think if we just sort of extrapolate that, I think that's really going to happen. I think we're going to kind of all just do what you said. I think with Thanksgiving and with the year-end holidays, I think we're going to kind of, circle the family wagons. We're going to be in touch with our families. There's going to be a lot of Zoom calls and stuff like that with folks. Some folks are traveling. A lot of students, college students are coming back home. So I think people are just going to kind of, hunker down, but they're preparing for the new year. Over the horizon, I really look to Congress and, the president, et cetera, to get into this infrastructure thing. I talked to you about being in manufacturing. I'm really bullish on sort of Team USA rallying the troops and getting behind something big with respect to infrastructure. A lot of bridge stuff, a lot of, interstate highways, a lot of those different types of things. You're going to have the Elon Musks of the world and the others that are really shooting for the technology stuff, setting satellites up into space and ferrying cargo and all of that. But I think here, boots on the ground, I'm really looking forward to the next 4 years, and I'm really hoping for something material with respect to infrastructure. So that's what I'm hoping happens.
As always, you are a breath of fresh air, smart, crisp, fresh air. I miss hanging out with you. If you want to come up and visit me at the hotel, please do. We're way overdue for our coffee, but this was a great visit. Certainly something good. And thanks for spending time with us, Jack Chadam.
My pleasure. Thanks, Steve.
See you, brother.
Take care.